Welcome to Adhvaitha, and in this video we will be discussing few verses from the Kena Upanishad. Kena Upanishad is one of the most profound Upanishads which directly give us the teachings on the nature of reality and the nature of God or Brahman. So we will be looking at a few selected verses from Kena Upanishad in order to understand what it is talking about and in order to understand the nature of this reality. So the word Kena in Sanskrit is something very interesting. Depending on the context, it translates to what or why or who or from what cause. So these are the fundamental philosophical questions that most of us have. What is this existence? What is this universe about? And so on. So Kena Upanishad is directly answering these questions, and Kena Upanishad gives us the teachings on the nature of reality. So now let us look at some of the verses from this Upanishad in order to understand this reality. So first I am going to read a few verses which is translated to English, and then later we will discuss the meaning and we will decode the teaching of these verses. That which cannot be expressed by speech but by which speech is expressed, that alone know as Brahman, not that which people here worship. That which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended, that alone know as Brahman, not that which people here worship. That which cannot be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived, that alone know as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. That which cannot be heard by the ear, but by which the hearing is perceived, that alone know as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. Now these verses and these sentences are very cryptic in nature, and for most of us they are very difficult to understand. That is why the commentary on the Kena Upanishad by Adi Shankaracharya is very significant. Here he decodes the meaning of these verses and goes into a great detail in explaining these verses in order to show us what these verses are pointing towards. Now let us understand these verses one by one and let us understand what this is pointing towards. That which cannot be expressed by speech but by which speech is expressed, that alone know as Brahman. So this verse is saying that absolute reality or the God or Brahman cannot be talked about, cannot be expressed in speech, but it is the very power which is behind the speech and which is what making the speech happen. And the next verse tells us that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended, that alone know as Brahman. So here again the verse is talking about something which cannot be conceived in the mind, which cannot be understood by the mind, but it is through which the mind itself is understanding different things and is conceiving different things. Now let us pause here, let us think about it deeply, and let us understand what these verses are pointing towards. What can be that which cannot be seen, which cannot be heard, which cannot be talked about, and which cannot be understood or conceived with our minds? But again, that is the very power from which we can see, we can hear, we can understand, and we can speak. So what is it? What is that which these verses are pointing us towards? If we think about it, the answer that we will come to is consciousness or awareness, because it is very obvious. We are aware of the world around us. We are conscious of the world around us. And consciousness and awareness are beyond mind and it is behind mind. So now if we look at the verse which says that which cannot be seen but by which the seeing happens, know that as Brahman, we can understand that this verse is referring to the consciousness or awareness that is within each and every one of us. Our awareness is something that we cannot see. because it is behind seeing. The very awareness is enabling us to see the world and experience the world. But that itself, the awareness itself, cannot be seen or heard or talked about or conceived, because that awareness is behind the mind. It is something very fundamental. It is essentially who we are. If we understand this, these verses will start to make clear sense, because awareness has no quality to it. It is unquantifiable, it is formless, and it is all pervading. And it empowers the senses, and it enables us to understand this universe and to perceive this world the way we do. Awareness is behind everything that we do, and awareness is very fundamental to our existence. And in fact, the Upanishads say that awareness is who we truly are in our core essence. So according to Upanishads, awareness is not only that which enables us to perceive this world, but awareness is who we truly are, and awareness is what this entire universe is, because this universe and whatever we see all around us is happening within our awareness. It is happening within our consciousness. So consciousness is fundamental, and that cannot be seen or heard or talked about, and it can also not be understood. How can we understand consciousness or awareness? This is the problem with modern science right now. It is trying to understand consciousness. That is why they are stuck, and they are calling it the hard problem of consciousness. Consciousness is the very substance which is behind understanding. Consciousness is what we are using to understand different concepts, ideologies, philosophies, and objects. But consciousness itself is not an object. Only objects can be understood. A subject cannot be understood, and consciousness is the ultimate subject. It is that which is behind the mind, and it is that which enables and empowers the mind to perceive this world. But that itself cannot be understood, or at least it cannot be understood in a typical way by trying to find it in the external world, because it is the very essence of our being, and it is behind the mind. And this consciousness is in what this universe is happening right now. And Shankaracharya talks about how we can realize this in his work Aparoksha Anubhuti. He says that understanding awareness or consciousness cannot be done by traditional methods, which is through direct perception and through inference. Direct perception is looking at something and seeing it for what it is and understanding it, and this is called Pratyaksha Anubhuti. And inference is what modern science is mostly about. We look at microscopic particles through different instruments. Since we cannot look at them directly, we make use of certain instruments and certain data, and we analyze that data, and we analyze the outputs given by those instruments, and then we draw conclusions about the nature of those objects. This is inference. And Shankaracharya clearly says consciousness cannot be understood by direct perception, and it cannot be understood through inference. It can be only realized by Aparoksha Anubhuti, which is neither this typical direct perception or inference, but it is sort of a first-hand experience of who we truly are. It is very difficult to explain because, again, like the Kena Upanishad says, this is beyond understanding. So understanding happens within our minds, but consciousness is something which is beyond the mind and which is behind the mind. Mind cannot grasp it, and hence people who get this are said to be realized. We don't call them the people who are understood, but we call them the realized ones. We have to go within ourselves, and we need to find out who we are in our truest essence to come to a realization of what consciousness is, and to come to an understanding of what awareness is. This is what Kena Upanishad is pointing towards. I hope this video was valuable to you. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you like to go deeper into these concepts and if you want to consciously live your life and create the life that you truly want to live, you can join our community cum learning platform, the Adhvaitha Conscious Society, by visiting adhvaitha.com. The link will be given in the description. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.